And Ms. Brown, your question number, please. Question number 4. What do you feel should be the federal role in education? How can we best support education?
Well, what we really need to do is we need to free up the chokehold that the federal government has on our education process right now. But we also need more reform on a local and state level. I am not as sympathetic to some of the school districts across the country that are bankrupt because they have spent more money consistently on capital projects, on buildings they didn't need. They have promised to their teachers and staff promises they couldn't keep with pensions and health benefits. And right now, we who have children in the schools, public or not, we're all paying the cost for that because those teachers are losing their jobs and our children are not going to be as well educated. And that is not the fault of the teachers, that's the fault of local, state, and federal school administrators. I think we see that when charter schools work, for example, charter schools work because they are free of all those restrictions and requirements. And the problem with the Obama administration now is he has a Secretary of Education who was in favor of charter schools and looser restrictions in Chicago, and now has rescinded all of those now that he's the head of the federal government's Department of Education. What we need to do is give it back to the local districts and let us decide how we want our children to be educated and how many dollars we're going to spend to do that.
For this 4th round, Mr. Wright, your number, please, sir. Number 11, and question number 11, do you support bringing high-speed passenger rail service to Northeast Indiana?
You know, it's an interesting question because I've oftentimes thought, you don't even fly around in these little regional jets and how inefficient that may be. That a high-speed rail system that connected us to a bigger city would probably be a wise and prudent thing to do. The question is who's going to finance it and how do we get there? I don't know that I have an answer to that, but I do support the concept of high-speed rail because it just seems to me to be the best, most efficient way that we can transport people from place to place, especially in shorter distances. Here to Chicago, here to Indianapolis, here to Detroit, here to Cincinnati, Cleveland. Just not every place, but at least one place where you can find a big airport and you can actually go somewhere instead of Fort Wayne where you can go to Atlanta or Detroit, maybe Cincinnati. And I do support the concept, and what you have to do, I believe, would be to clear the regulatory hurdles, the legal hurdles, and the funding would probably show up as financially viable. Don't know that it is, but I do support the concept.
Final question for this round, Mr. Phil Troyer. Question 12. What is the top domestic issue facing America that you believe the federal government should address?
You know, a lot of the candidates have talked about the fact that we need to do something about the federal debt, and I would agree with that. But to me, the best solution we can have, and the #1 issue that I would push for if elected, and those of you that took my flyer for the Compact with the American People that I ran on when I was running in the primary, the #1 issue on there would be the #1 issue that I would fight for if elected, and that is mandatory term limits for all members of Congress, because to me, it all flows from there. The reason we have huge federal deficits is because you have 435 members of Congress, and this also came up in several of the questions saying, you know, my #1 priority is to work in favor of my district. Well, the problem with that is that when you have 435 members all trying to reach into the pot to grab out as much as they can for their district, it's no wonder we're in the situation that we're in. And so we need a congressman who's going to take a broader approach and say, yes, I want to do whatever I can and, you know, support my own district, but at the same time think about the fact that we do have, as a number of the candidates have mentioned, we're broke. You know, on the high-speed rail that Dennis was talking about, I agree with him. It would be a great concept. I'd love to have a Porsche too, but I can't afford it. We can't afford high-speed rail. There's a lot of things we would like to do, but it starts with we need to reform Congress, fundamentally reform Congress, and to me, the #1 thing is starting with term limits.
We now move to closing closing arguments, I would ask you during this part to allow each person to speak and to speak fully. When they come to an end, let's withhold our applause until the very end. Then we'll thank all of the candidates all at once. Chairman Steve Shine had asked that I make sure that he's home in bed by 9:45, and I'm trying to do that right now. So we will call them out. They each have 90 seconds like they did on answering their questions. We will take them in the order of the draw they did at the start of the evening, and then we will have our applause for all of them at the conclusion. And thank you for honoring that. The first closing argument goes to Dennis Wright.
I'd just like to take a second of my 90 seconds to just thank all of you for attending here tonight. I think it's a marvelous turnout. And thank the sponsors for putting on this forum that we might be able to speak to you and you might get to know us a little bit. This is a compact and very close, tight structure that we have to get ourselves known to you. This decision that you, precinct people, must make to select one of us to be the nominee to take on Tom Hayhurst is an awesome responsibility. We cannot pick a candidate who can be construed to be a career politician. There is an anger in this country, and it's directed at those that are career politicians. That term's been batted around here tonight, that none of us are. I definitely have not. I've run for this office, and I run for it in 76, I ran for it in 94, and you wonder why did I do that? The same things motivated me then that motivate me now. The government was too big then, it spends too much money. It's still too big, and it still spends too much money. So I'm just going to ask you for your consideration of your vote, and I will guarantee you that I will win this election in November. And I will take the fight to the left in a way that Republicans seem to have been reluctant to do for quite some time. And this is the fight for the soul of America. And we cannot afford to lose this battle. We can't lose this seat. We must win this seat. And we must win control of Congress entirely. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And the next closing argument is from Joe Schomburg. Thank you for holding our applause.
Once again, thank you everyone for coming out, and thank you our sponsors. And also, thanks to all the candidates, because a lot of people think this is a circus, but really it's pretty impressive just to see everyone who is sick of the way things are going on in Washington and, you know, want to put their 2 cents in and be heard. So, thank you for all of you. Those of you who don't believe that my generation has a stake in the future, I'm here to prove you wrong. After I announced Wednesday that I was running, it was quite a fiasco right there, let me tell you. But I was amazed by the amount of support I had, not from all the young professionals from around the area who are worried about jobs leaving and jobs not coming to Northeast Indiana. There's that stigma of Fort Wayne and the surrounding area is great to raise a family, but for young professionals, it's not the greatest thing. That's a shame because all these schools around here really do an excellent job of creating young, fresh talent who are energetic and are ready to give back to the community that they lived in their whole life. My nursing education is really going to help me because it keeps me grounded and realize that every single choice you make has a ripple effect over every person that you serve. So my patient population of 6 on the floor is quickly going to be expanded to the 3rd District of Indiana. I'm going to focus on my critical issues of decreasing spending, decreasing the size of government, implicating fair tax, and improving education. So I'm young, I'm energetic, I'm ready to look at the new issues from a fresh perspective, and serve all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next closing argument is from Bob Thomas.